And we begin this Sunday morning with breaking news about the war in Iran. President Trump announced just moments ago that a naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is beginning. In a moment, President Trump will join me in an exclusive interview to bring us the latest information about the war in Iran, as high-level negotiations between the United States and Iran have ended without an agreement. These were the first direct talks between the two countries in a decade, and the highest-level dialogue between them since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. The negotiations began on Saturday and lasted 21 hours in Islamabad, Pakistan. Vice President J.D. Vance was in Pakistan leading the ZUA delegation, along with Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, while a fragile ceasefire has been in effect between the two sides since Tuesday, after President Trump agreed to give Iran 2 more weeks to open the Strait of Hormuz or face further destruction. Now, the president will implement a naval blockade in the strait. Here is Vice President J.D. Vance after the talks in Islamabad this morning.
We've been at this for 21 hours now, and we've had several substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we haven't reached an agreement, and I think that's much worse news for Iran than for the United States of America.
Joining me now, live by phone with the latest information, is the 45th and 47th President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thank you very much for being with me this morning. I know your time is limited, and we appreciate you taking the time to explain all of this to our audience. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria.
Mr. President, can you explain to us what is happening now with the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz? Well,
we are going to set up a blockade. It will take a little while, but it will be effective soon. And we had some meetings yesterday. They, as you said, lasted 21 hours. The meeting was long with JD, Steve, and Jared. We were very well represented, but there was no agreement on the main point. They want to have nuclear weapons, but they won't have them. I've been saying this for 30 years. I would never allow that to happen. Never. This country will not have nuclear weapons. Most shouldn't be allowed to have them, but this country certainly won't have them.
Thank you. So, Mr. President, was that the red line? Can you explain to us what happened in those conversations? What did the United States ask of Iran, and how did they respond? Thank you.
Well, they reacted, it was very interesting. It started off weak. They came in as if they had the upper hand, but they don't. Their army and all their military strength is obliterated. The whole place was destroyed. And as you know, the leadership levels are gone. They just disappeared. And it's gone. Everything disappeared. The whole place disappeared. They have something they can do. They can say, we can lay a mine somewhere, 1, 2, or 10 mines. And that will do it. With $1 billion ship, you would say, better not get hit by a mine and lose or seriously damage my ship. So that's a little resource they have that military might and military strength can't achieve. But, it's extortion. And they're extorting the world. We don't get our oil from there. We have so much. We have, and one thing you said is, I don't know if anyone heard it right, but we have ships coming in droves to the United States. They're going to fill them up and leave, loaded with the best oil available, light, sweet crude. They will have the best oil you can find. But, that's interesting, and it's great because we have a lot of oil. We don't get anything. I mean, literally, last year it was 1%. We did it as a favor. We don't need the strait, but others do. And I'll tell you, since we're talking about it, we're very disappointed with NATO. We're very, very disappointed that they didn't come. Now, they want to come, and they want to help with the strait. And it won't take long to clear everything. So we're going to clear the strait, and they'll be able to use the strait in no time. But we had a very intense negotiation, and in the end, it was very friendly, and we got pretty much all the points we needed, except for the fact that they refused to give up their nuclear ambition. And that's the only point, honestly, for me. That was the most important point.
I want to ask about that in NATO. But, President, you posted today on Truth Social, we will begin blocking all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz, and at some point we will reach a situation where everyone can enter and everyone can leave. So tell us what you are trying to achieve with this blockade, sir.
Everyone going out, that means going in and out. There will come a point when everyone will be able to go in and out. It won't be a percentage. It won't be a friend of yours, like an allied country or a friendly country. It's all or nothing, and that's going to happen. It won't take long. No, we're just bringing the ships. We have a lot of ships, so we're bringing them. We believe several countries will help us with this, but we're imposing a complete blockade, and we're not going to let Iran make money by selling oil to whoever they like and not to whoever they don't like. In other words, whatever it is, it's going to be all or nothing, and that's how it's going to be. And it will be, you saw what we did with Venezuela. It's going to be something very similar to that, but on a higher level.
Mr. President, are you saying there might be a mine out there? There's somewhere that no one knows except them, and that's global extortion. How will the United States ensure that the mines are removed from the Strait of Hormuz?
We already have minesweepers there. We have highly sophisticated underwater models, which are the most modern and advanced, but we're also bringing in the traditional ones. I understand that the United Kingdom and some other countries are also sending theirs. Several don't have mine hunters. Think about it. They had 28 mine layers. Which country has 28 mine layers, 28 boats to launch mines? Which country? They were completely obliterated. They don't exist anymore. So we destroyed their entire navy. They had 158 ships and 28 mine layers, all now at the bottom of the sea. Can you believe that? We did it in 4 days. Their air force is gone, their air defenses too. If you look at their air defenses, all of them, their entire radar system is down. The air defense system has been completely neutralized. They have nothing. And you know what the sad part is? I can't say it's just because of you. We destroyed everything. Their leaders and their army are finished. Everything is gone. And only a fraction of the missiles remain. We destroyed thousands of missiles and hundreds of sites where they're made, as well as different parts. They're almost gone. They say 82% or 85%. Who knows the exact number, but we finished them. We destroyed their drone factories. Now they've lost strength and we have new counter-drone systems. You saw that. The computer-guided bullets, as they call them, and also lasers. The laser melts the drone. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's a lot, but think about it. We won clearly. Until yesterday, they were saying, no, it was a total annihilation. And reading the New York Times, it seems like they're doing well. If they're fighting really hard, wasn't it a tough battle? This was a very easy battle, militarily speaking. But when someone says, let's put a mine in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz, there's not much you can do to convince a ship owner who has $1 billion ship that we're going to take a trip through the strait. Now, yesterday, you probably saw we sent 2 highly sophisticated destroyers, brand new, right through the middle of the strait. And nobody did anything against us, because what we do is trace the weapon back. Then it goes back and eliminates the people on the other side. Literally in 3 minutes, they're neutralized. The technology is unbelievable. But we don't know if they do that or not, if they put money in or not. They didn't talk about that yesterday. My inclination is to have some, and I'll tell you. It was a good meeting yesterday, really a good meeting, except for one problem. And it's 95% they want to have nuclear weapons. That's not going to happen.
And that's a key point. Your Excellency, Mr. President, for those people who haven't been following this closely, could you explain in detail why it was crucial for the United States to intervene in Iran? Can you articulate what was behind that decision, why it was so important to go into Iran?
That's easy, the simplest question so far. Não podem ter armas nucleares. They have nuclear weapons. They want to further enrich what they already have. As you know, we destroyed it with the B-2 bombers. If we hadn't done that, they would have had a nuclear weapon within a month after that. In other words, the B-2S, those beautiful B-2 bombers, completely obliterated their 3 sites. They have 3 sites, and now they're deeply buried in the ground, as you know, tons of rock. Now the material has to be recovered. But we have cameras on it, and Space Force satellites, a crucial development. We monitor every aspect of that area. They don't move without us knowing exactly what's happening. But it's really deep, and it would take a long time to get it out of there. This is a truly impressive attack. If we hadn't done this, they would have had a nuclear weapon within a month from that date. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it in Israel and the Middle East. Look, they attacked 5 different targets. They were countries that were more or less neutral, okay? I think so. I don't know how friendly they were, but they weren't in the line of fire. They probably launched 1,800 missiles at the United Arab Emirates. They launched many at Saudi Arabia and also at Qatar. They launched them at Bahrain. I mean, they went crazy, and everyone was surprised. Actually, that was good for us because all of them joined us immediately at some point. They would either panic or unite. Everyone came together and helped a lot. These countries were great, including Kuwait.
And that's the main point. You feel that they can't get a nuclear weapon because they're going to use it. And that's exactly what I wanted you to explain to the audience.
Yes, I think they'd use it, starting with Israel. And a weapon, would cause damage like no one has ever seen, possibly wiping out a large part of it. Don't erase it anymore. They don't need to. There's no need for more than one. And then they go after the Middle East and eventually get here, And we won't let them come here. And we won't let them. We have great allies over there. I tell you, those 5 countries, look at the relationship with Israel. Look at the incredible partnership we have there. And you know how Bibi Netanyahu said, we are the older brother and they are the younger brother. And it's been a very effective team, very effective. What we did literally in a matter of days, in 3-4 days, Iran was eliminated. It's sad to see the press say that they are fighting bravely. They are not fighting bravely. They don't have air defense. And we can, flying over, we shoot down when we want and destroy whatever we want. As you know, last week I said that we are considering destroying the remaining power plants and bridges. We took down the main bridge because we were communicating well, and they go to the press. They're great at public relations, much better at that than at fighting. They go to the press and say, President Trump said it's okay for us to have a nuclear weapon when I never even spoke to them. By the way, that would be the one thing I would never say to them, and they know that. And then the New York Times, which is a hoax, a fake newspaper, it's all a hoax. You believe the opposite. It's sad to see CNN in action. The New York Times, ABC fake news, and NBC fake news. It's sad to see this. They spread things they know are false. It's almost treason if you want to know the truth. It's almost treason. But if you only read the New York Times and their print circulation has dropped a lot, yes, it has dropped a lot. I'm proud to report that. But if you read only the New York Times, you'd think they're doing very well in the war. Are they doing badly?
I wanted to ask you.
They can only say, maybe we have mines. And if you have a ship, who wants to take the risk? No one will take the risk.
Mr. President, I want to ask you about this because you posted a tweet and really caught the country's attention a week ago when we were all waiting and watching to see what the next step of the United States would be if the Iranians didn't open the Strait of Hormuz. And you wrote this on Truth Social: an entire civilization will die tonight and never be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, with a complete regime change where smarter and more moderate minds prevail, maybe something wonderful will happen. Mr. President, your tweet has been criticized. An entire civilization is going to die tonight. What do you have to say about that, and what are the next steps? Do you plan more destruction?
Well, I accept that. That statement brought them to the table, except for one point that I believe they will give up. I believe they will give up on that soon because it won't work. We thought we had already gotten there, and out of nowhere they said, no, we want it. But I believe, no, and when I say that, remember, what have they been saying to us? For years I've had to hear them say, death to America, right? They say, death to America, death to Israel, America is Satan. Let's destroy America, death to America. So does anyone complain to you when you say that? I think that's a big step backwards. Death to America. So they're allowed to say, death to America. And what I mean is when I talk about civilization, it will be very different because their army will have completely disappeared. It's already almost gone. But their army, look at their leadership. We had a regime change because the people we dealt with yesterday were frankly very smart, very clever, very good, very good. I think they were smarter than the people before, Khomeini and that group. Look at what that brought them. Look at what their schemes brought. They spent trillions on weapons, and we destroyed most of them. But when I talk about a civilization, I mean that it really changed. Yes, it really happened, but think about it. They are allowed to say, death to America, death to this. They say, death to something, big deal. But that statement brought them to the negotiating table, and from there, they never left. I predict that they will come back and give us everything we want. And I tell my people, I want everything. I don't want 90%. I don't want 95%. I told them I want everything. Well, and what do they want? None. Maria, yes. They don't have cards. Their Navy has disappeared. Their Air Force is finished. Completely gone. They have nothing. They don't have ships. 158 ships are at the bottom of the sea. Good. Good. New. Soleimani, they had a vessel called Soleimani, was destroyed by one of our Tiger Sharks, by one of our fast submarines. It's incredible. Our armed forces are very good. Did you know that our armed forces now have a 94% approval rating? They do. Congress has 14%. The media has 12%. In the beginning, the media had a 92% approval rating. Today, it's at 14%. I'm proud of that because they're dishonest.
Mr. President, I see what just happened with our NATO allies who reacted and did not support you in the United States. And I see what happened with our Gulf allies in the Middle East who no longer want an aggressor in the region. Do you expect those Gulf allies to help you with this blockade in the Strait of Hormuz? Yes. Which other countries?
They've started. The Gulf states are much closer, so they might have to act, but they could also stay out. But they made a mistake when they started launching missiles at them. And here's the good part. The Gulf states are rich and have a lot of Patriots. Our Patriot missile, which is an anti-missile missile, is unbelievable. They fired at us one day at a certain asset we have, that is the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. One of the wonders of the world, one of the great beauties of the world. They fired 101 missiles out of a total of 100. These things are going at over 2,000 miles per hour. And out of the 101 missiles, 101 were shot down as if it was nothing, and now they're at the bottom of the sea, or what's left of them. Think about it. 101 missiles fired in a short period of time. All 101 were shot down. So we have the best military equipment. We have the best people. We have by far the strongest armed forces in the world, and everyone sees that, whether it's in Venezuela or what we did with Iran. And when I read, the fake news talking about how Iran is doing well, they're not doing well at all. They're being defeated. I could wipe out Iran in a day. I could wipe them out in one hour. I could take out all their power, everything, every one of their plans. Their power plants, which are very important. And although I hate to do it, it takes 10 years to rebuild. They will never be able to rebuild. And then there are their bridges too. I destroyed one just to show them because they made a public statement that wasn't true. They admitted it. I said, I'm going to take down a bridge and destroy it, which solved the situation. Now they've been behaving very well. But in just half a day, not a single bridge would be left standing. There wouldn't be a single power plant working anymore. And they would go back to the Stone Age. I'd rather not do that, but I really believe they'll come to the table to negotiate. Because no one can be so stupid as to want nuclear weapons without having any cards up their sleeve. They have no cards at all.
So, if they don't give up on this effort, is that the plan? Are you going to destroy Iran even more?
Yes, if they don't abandon the plan, I will. I have nothing to do with you, Jerry. We want to open the strait, but the ships are already reaching the United States. I mean, look, I've invited everyone. It's very good
to talk. Boss, since you mentioned that post about hundreds of supertankers going to the Gulf of America to buy U.S. oil and gas, what can you tell us about that?
Well, it used to be called the Gulf of Mexico, and now it's called the Gulf of America because of me. It's one of my little side projects, and it's a great honor. People are very happy. In Louisiana, Florida, and Texas, they feel very honored by it. I used to say, why is it called the Gulf of Mexico if we have 93% of the coastline? And 93% of the coastline belongs to the United States. I said, I think I'm going to change it to Gulf of America. Beautiful name. And I changed it. And I give a lot of credit to Google because as soon as I filed the papers, I did it. Google Maps, once Google Maps changed, did it. It was done. It was a closed case. But we had lawsuits, we lost, we won everything, and now it's the Gulf of America, of which I am very proud.
And do you expect supertankers?
I can tell you, I was thinking of calling it the Trump Gulf. And I decided not to do that. I think maybe it was a wise decision. I think that one might not have worked out. I'm not so sure. You'll have to tell me. But I was thinking it's going to be called the Trump Gulf. And then I said, you know what? That's not going to go over very well.
Me? I think you are.
You are. You know I'm joking.
Yes, it's just the president joking.
It will be a headline. Fake news will be the headline tomorrow.
And what about the oil exporters? Tell me about that, because you expect empty supertankers to head to the Gulf of Mexico, to Louisiana, and to Texas.
They're coming. Well, they're going to Texas. They'll travel along our entire coast. We have the biggest ports and they're leaving. Remember that. And that's really impressive. That was my moment when we were there. When I took office, we were in third or fourth place in energy and doing exactly that. Oil, gas, and other things. Now we're bigger than Saudi Arabia. Think about that. And we're bigger than Saudi Arabia. Take Saudi Arabia and Russia and add another country there. Whichever you want. We're bigger than all of them together. Think about that. That's all because of Trump. And when Biden inherited this system, he changed it. Then he tried to go back because the price of oil was going up. You know, you remember it was going up $7, $8, etc. But look, even now we need to end this nuclear threat. People in our country have oil, but other countries are being harmed. I'm impressed by the Strait to Japan. That's where they get 93% of their oil. You know, Japan, South Korea gets 45% of their oil. These people haven't helped us, I ask. Are you going to help? And you know, we have 45,000 soldiers and 50,000 respectively in those two places. 45,000 and 50,000 soldiers. We guard them and protect them. And when we need a little help, they don't help us. When we ask NATO for help, they didn't help us. And we pay. I don't know if you saw. $900 billion, almost $1 trillion. Heading to NATO in no time to protect them from Russia. And when we got there, and Biden, I wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have the Ukraine problem. Russia would never attack Ukraine. But with Biden, an incompetent president, he was terrible. Look, the election was rigged. You and I know that. Everybody knows that now. And everything came to light, and it keeps coming to light. But about Biden, if you look, see what happened. When he was president, that's a war that would never have happened. Russia attacking Ukraine, yes. And in fact, I ended 8 wars, including the one involving Pakistan. Pakistan was great yesterday. They were the ones who really facilitated the meeting, right? They said thank you. They always say, we're going to go to war with India. And as the prime minister said, between 30 and 50 million people would have died, and I ended that. I said, if you go to war, we won't do any business. Well, and believe it or not, I ended the relationship because of the customs tariffs. The Supreme Court didn't spare me on that.
Already? Okay. Will all of this be enough? The blockade in the Strait, the opening of capacity in the United States, is it enough to lower the price of oil and gas, sir?
Well, it will happen. Eventually, it will go down. Now, it may not happen immediately, but it will drop. When all this is over, look, the stock market, the Dow reached 50,000. It was supposed to happen in 4 or 5 years. They said it wouldn't happen during his term, but it might be 4 or 5 years. It reached 50,000 in my first year. You know that better than anyone? You cover this better than anyone. The S&P reached 7,000 in my first year, before my first year. You know that. And I said to myself, here we go. I have to stop this country from having a nuclear weapon. Do you want to see the stock market go down? If nuclear bombs are dropped on us, or honestly anywhere, then you'll really see the market go down. So the stock market barely dropped at all. It dropped a little, much less than I expected. And honestly, gas prices didn't go up as much as I thought they would either. But regardless, even if it happened, we have to stop this group of people. And again, it was worse because Khomeini was a complete, radical. Oh, you gentle maniac. He was a maniac. And you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So I have the best economy ever. Everything is going really well. And I tell my advisors, sorry guys, we're in a great situation. But we need to take a little trip to Iran to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. They all said, we agree.
So do you believe that the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I think it might be the same, or maybe a little higher, but it should stay about the same. I don't think this will last much longer. They're finished, Maria, they're finished. You don't have a fair chance. We need a free and fair press in this country. I don't even know why people would do that, why they would say how well they're doing militarily. They're doing so well. The country is destroyed. We lost a plane, and we captured both pilots. What about us saving those 2 pilots?
Amazing.
No other country has the capability to do that. Usually when that happens, countries just say goodbye. They say you're very lucky because you're going to get really deep into this. Yeah, it was about 7 whole hours of flight time just so I could make it. And get them. We were in one of the toughest areas, one of the most dangerous in the world, and we managed to get both of them. Wow.
Extraordinary. And thank God for our army. And I know you rebuilt the armed forces. Now, Mr. President, before you go, it was you who led the maximum pressure campaign against Iran in your first term. Will the maximum pressure campaign return? You considered them the main sponsors of terrorism. And I need to ask you about all these efforts and the impact on China. What you did in Venezuela, in Iran, and even your comments about Cuba. Where does China stand on the eve of the meeting with Xi Jinping next month?
Of course. Well, in a maximum pressure campaign, you can't do more than the maximum. We practically destroyed their country. The only thing left is the water, which would be devastating to hit. I would hate to do that, but it's the water. The desalination plants and the power plants, which are very easy to attack. We could hit them. We could take everything down, and I mean really take it down, to the point where you would be without electricity for 10 years, because it takes 10 years to build those plants from scratch. You probably would never be able to build them again. And the bridges. So that's it. That's really the only thing. We still have some missile factories, and we know exactly where each one is. We're going to do it, except for those few things that are left. I think I've pretty much reached my limit. You are very, very violent and cruel. I wouldn't want to have you against me. I'll tell you. Like I said, I think we've reached the limit. Just these items, and there are still a few plants left. We had 1 more week to finish the rest of the plants, but we were finishing quickly. In the case of China, they can send their ships to us, and also directly to Venezuela. We told them, buy from Venezuela. We have a lot of excess capacity that we would sell, and we would probably sell it cheaper. I have a very good relationship with President Xi of China, and we work well together. And they are paying us a good amount. As you know, we never got money before. I hear this Gordon Chang. He has no idea what he's talking about. We've been very tough on China. Tough, but fair. And, it's an amazing place. But I have a very good relationship with China, and they do too. During my time, I put huge tariffs. I tax Chinese cars at 100%, which destroys Europe. They are ruining Europe by taking business away from brands like Mercedes and BMW. We don't have Chinese cars here because they would have destroyed General Motors and Ford. They would have wiped out those companies. So I imposed a 100% tariff, and to be fair, Biden kept it, which is surprising. It was pretty much the only thing he did well, and he let it continue. So we don't have their problem. Europe has serious economic problems because of the invasion of Chinese cars. We don't.
But President, just to be clear, you said that any country that supports Iran and sends military equipment will face a 50% tariff if they try? Those products, you were referring to China.
Yes, and other people too. But yes, China as well. Okay, if we find out that China, because I hear reports, so one report doesn't mean much to me, but I hear reports about China supplying shoulder-fired missiles, what they call portable missiles, anti-aircraft missiles. I doubt they would do that because I have a relationship and I don't think they would do that. But maybe they did a little at the beginning, but I don't think they would do it anymore. No. But if we catch them doing that, they get a 50% tariff, which is exorbitant. It's an impressive amount.
And would you like to say something about our NATO allies in terms of what's next for them? Isn't it time for them to call Iran the main state sponsor of terrorism? And what are you going to do since they haven't helped in this effort?
Well, NATO is shameful. I didn't exaggerate there. We didn't need help, I would say. If they want to help, great. If not, that's fine. And they said, we'd rather not, sir. They weren't there for us. If I had forced them, maybe they would have gone in. But they would have gone in reluctantly, really reluctantly, and they would have stayed far behind. No, I'm very disappointed. Look at the, United Kingdom. I love the United Kingdom. It's, born in Scotland. And, I love that. But, Mr. Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer said, we'll send the equipment after the war is over. I said, you need equipment before or during the war. Not when it's over, he stated publicly that we would send it only after the war was finished. It was like, that sounds like a statement, kind of like Neville Chamberlain. And with Germany, it's really exactly the same thing. Ele disse, nós não começamos. That we helped them with Ukraine. That would never happen under my presidency. We would have problems with Russia and with Ukraine. But the president was incompetent. Germany said that they demanded strongly that the war stop. More importantly, he said, we didn't start the war. Well, we didn't start the war in Ukraine, but we helped. Biden gave $350 billion. I don't provide any information. I sell things to NATO and they do whatever they want. I think they deliver it to Ukraine, but I sell it for the full price. Yes, we sell it to NATO and they do whatever they want with it. Think carefully. $3 billion. The Germans thought it was bad, but like all the others are, no, we need to re-examine NATO because they were not there for us. And let me tell you something, for more than 25 years, they were not there for us and they won't be without. They weren't there for us. It's just military operation. It's not hard. We are stronger. We rebuilt the armed forces in the first term. I used that in the second term. Yes, and we have the best armed forces in the world. And now I see that I was right to spend all that money on the army. We have the best Forças Armadas do mundo. Temos os melhores equipment in the world, and it's impressive what we managed to do. Look at Venezuela. We are doing. Everything is fine with Venezuela. It's an excellent time to have Venezuela. And by the way, Venezuela, it is generating much more capital than ever, and we are actively participating in those profits if.
Right. Well, Mr. President, we want to respect your time. I know how busy you are, and that we will have the second part of this interview this week at the White House. Thank you for calling and for the updates this morning. We will see you next week in the Oval Office for the second part of our interview to discuss broader topics. Issues and impact. Economia. Obrigado, senhor presidente.
Obrigado, Maria. Obrigado.